Hey, everybody, what's happening? Welcome to this is actually the initial one, aside from my own, Stashes episode. You're going to see who the guest is on today's show, and then the whole idea of the stash is actually going to really come into focus a little bit better. But you guys know what I'm talking about. These are either trade deadline, silly season, second half winners with all of my buddies from the fantasy space. You guys heard my list a couple days ago. Who am I looking for? Who I think is going to gain in value as we move through the trade deadline and into the silly season and all that crap. But now it's time to hear from everybody else. And that's what's coming up over a series of episodes here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Dan Vespris. You can find me on social media at Dan Vespris on Twitter, DanBesbris. Old Man Squad over on Blue Sky. And we have our video shorts over at Old Man Squad Fantasy. That is on Instagram. Hit that like button on the video. Definitely subscribe. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify after the fact, throw that 5-star review on the pod. Thank you, as always, as we get started here to our buddies at Bet Online, the site that continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan, a longtime bettor, or a first-timer, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, Bet Online has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. The captain is with us today. The captain. Greetings, sir.
Hello, sir.
So you don't have a stash right now. I mean, it's part of an overall look that's developing. So I said I was going to welcome the Williamsport Crosscutters mascot to our show today, and I immediately forgot that I was going to do that. So that was butchered on my end. But a lot of the time, at Captain Cain, on Twitter at Captain Cainigus, Caineghis. It's easier if you're watching the YouTube, then you can just go spell that sucker. You have at many times over the years sported the mustache. So I was like, in the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping that you would have already been forced to get rid of the beard and you could legitimately just do a all stash episode. But you got the full fluff going on right now.
Yes, sir. I like that idea. Mustache for the deadline for silly season.
Yeah, we'll clean you up for the trade deadline. You'll be the mustache. So how's everything going? How's the new year treating you? Thank you for coming on our fundraiser, whatever that was, a week and a half ago.
Yeah, of course. It's been good. Kind of a little bit of a interesting start to 2025. Lots of stuff going on. I'm kind of disappointed. We don't up here in Anchorage. We don't have much snow going on for the last month. There's been almost no snow, but I see it's hitting everywhere, like including Florida and Georgia. So kind of a weird season right now. I'm as you see, my Christmas tree still rocking in the background, completely dead, not taking any water at all. But I'm refusing to take it down until we get our normal snow right now.
So this is you're boycotting the end of Christmas until snow falls. All right, that makes sense. I mean, it is a festive backdrop, so I can't argue with it. You have brought to the table today your list of I don't know what the right terminology for it is right now, because some of it is trade deadline stash, some of it is silly season stash, some of what we're going to talk about, not necessarily you and I, but just over this series of shows, is just going to be sort of second half winners. So whatever direction you and our other guests want to go down, I think is going to be a fun one. Where do you want to go first? As everybody knows, when we have guests on the show, they're steering the ship. So the wheel is in your hands. Where are we going?
All right. Well, if you don't mind, on your show the other day, really liked your stashes. A few of them are guys that I've talked about or tried to have on a lot of my teams this year, from Scoot, Sar, and Koulibaly. Love all those guys. Really hoping that Sar can get some more minutes. I've been waiting, 25 minutes, 27, 29. Hopefully they bump that up, or Kuzma gets traded and they commit to him. So 100% with you on him. He's owned in most leagues, so I didn't do kind of a deep dive on him. And then also really like Scoot. Sure, he's owned in most leagues. We saw what he did. But then the last two games to the bench and like 2 points and 4 points. We'll see what happens today. And, eyes are going to be on him with it being the only game of the day. But in most competitive leagues, I think he's gone. But if he goes out there off the bench again tonight and puts up another stinker, I would try to steal him from the owner because you never know what's going to happen over in Portland with all those shutdowns. If they trade Simons, they got to go back to him at some point. So I consider this less of a drop situation for Scoot right now and more of a go buy if you can.
Is that the main? Are those the core three, or did you have other? I want to make sure that I know exactly what ground we're covering on today's show.
No, I just wanted to touch on those and agree that I'm with you on those. But I have some more stats and numbers on some of the
I love having you. I love having you aboard. Yeah, the Scoot stuff's been very, very Portlandy. I get it. Like he hasn't played as well. He had the foul trouble game in there. But I'm with you on those. And yeah, admittedly, those guys I think were kind of in like the active stashes bucket, which makes them much easier to stash because you can just play them as you're working through your season. But then there's the other ones where you're like, well, can I weather whatever this time gap is? And now luckily we're close enough to the deadline that like you've got that breathing down our necks. The All-Star break is only a week later, and then you get another week off where you can sit on guys and it doesn't really hurt you in any way because you're not missing any games. All right, Cap, who's the first non-Dan name you want to cover on today's show?
Okay.
By the way, folks should know, I don't know what you're about to talk about.
All righty. So the first one I have, and he's kind of like you said, an active stash, is Isaiah Collier. Collier.
I think it's Collier. We're going to go with Collier for now.
Okay. So he's only 16% owned on Yahoo. On Basketball Monster, their advanced ownership, they have him at 51%. So probably owned in more leagues than I think Josh was saying at one point he's guesses like 25% of leagues are dead. So probably owned in more leagues than what Yahoo is actually showing. But I really like what he's doing over the last 2 weeks in a 6-game sample size, about 32 minutes, 13 points, 8.2 assists. That's great. 1.2 threes, 0.8 steals. And just the assists alone, it's so hard to find somebody that's giving you that amount of assists off the wire. Like if you compare him to somebody like a Tyus Jones, I think I'd rather have Collier even right now. I was curious to see what they do when Sexton came back, and pretty surprised was it last night where they put Keontae George on the bench and they started. So this one kind of hits on active stash / trade deadline because I don't think Sexton is long for their team. I'm not banking on a trade, but if that happens, that's even more time for him. And as the season goes on, even if Sexton doesn't get traded, I don't see why they're going to run him out there a full complement of minutes. So I'd really like to see that backcourt of Collier and Keontae. I think it helps both of them really because Keontae's, says that he likes to be more of a 2-guard than point guard. And their coach was saying that this was actually only the start of his second season playing point guard. I guess in college and high school, he's always been kind of a 2-guard. So if we can get Isaiah and Keontae starting over there, I think it helps both of them. Isaiah can do more of the 1-guard and really bulk up on assists, and maybe you get a little less assists from Keontae, but more scoring. So I'm loving what he's doing. Like I said, he's owning a good chunk of leagues, but only 16% on Yahoo. So if he's out there, I think he's somebody that you can hold right now, and he's doing enough, even if nothing changes. But if more usage opens up, if marketing gets shut down, if Sexton gets traded, I just really like what he's doing right now. But
yeah, unquestionably, I love that you brought him up. He is the Keontae thing in particular that you mentioned is such a key weird little Utah subplot, because I think we all assumed that as Markkanen came back and Collins was back for one of those games, and then they were like, nah, one was enough for you, John. Moving Keontae George to the bench instead of Colin Sexton, and I don't know where, like Jordan Clarkson, I think is still floating around somewhere in all of this. He's been out for a while, and they may or may not play him. We also know that he's on the block. There are these sort of complicating factors for now, but again, that's why this is the idea of, is this someone that we can hold until the pathway is even cleaner? Now, the funny thing about an Isaiah Collier, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is if you're looking at it from a strict 9-cat standpoint, he has some gaping holes in his game. Like the field goal percent has been atrocious so far this year. The turnovers have been painfully high. He's at 35% from the field. He's in the neighborhood of like 4 turnovers a game since he's playing these more like starters minutes, but not a ton of steals. How do you kind of reconcile that, Cap? Is that really where the whole like head-to-head team build concept comes in?
Yeah, I think so. Like you're saying, over the last 2 weeks, Basketball Monster has him at 214 in 9-cat, and on Yahoo 213. So about the same there. But yeah, really brought down by that field goal percentage, 40%, and like I said, almost 4 turnovers. So it definitely comes down to your league format. Those turnovers for head-to-head are really going to hurt. Or sorry, for Roto, but for head-to-head, if you're just trying to out-volume, I think you can manage, and hopefully, with more playing time, a little more time on the court, gets a little more efficient there. But if you're hurting for assists, or if you're kind of mid in the pack in assists, getting this guy that could potentially get you 8-9 assists a game, I think that can be game-changing versus if you look at somebody kind of like a Nick Smith for Charlotte, who's starting, getting those big minutes, but doesn't really do a whole lot, like 14 points, maybe an assist or 2, a rebound. I'd rather have somebody like Collier.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. If you're punting turnovers alone, that moves him basically from number 200 to number 100. That's what, like, there just aren't that many guys ranked between 100 and 200 that are terrible turnover dudes. So wiping that category out, which for a lot of folks in head-to-head is the way that they play anyway. Obviously, if you're in an 8-cat league, then that turnover or that category doesn't exist to begin with. But for a lot of folks in 9-cat, they're not focused on it. They're focused on maxing out games played, and they figure they're losing that category anyway. If you happen to throw a punt field goal on top of that, it pushes them up to about 7th round value over those last 2 to 3 weeks. So he's a really fun example of a guy who is good enough at one category, assists right now being that category, that it counterweights the bad, provided you don't care about the 1 or 2 worst categories. And he highlights the big difference between folks that are playing kind of traditional 9-cat roto versus what is now traditional head-to-head. I think like the days of people playing in head-to-head leagues where they're trying to win all nine categories are basically gone outside of the sort of most novice of leagues where you can just wipe the floor with everyone. But most folks that are watching a YouTube podcast about trade deadline stashes are playing in leagues that are above that threshold anyway. So totally agree. Stat hunting 101. It's that time of year anyway, where you're trying to buttress your team's your strengths and ignoring your weaknesses anyhow. Especially on teams that are headed in weird directions. Cap, where do you want to go second? Isaiah Collier, number 1. I'm ready to go. I'll get the next player page posted here as we're talking about him.
All right. Wondering if I want to save my favorite one for last.
Yeah, save the favorite.
Okay. So the next guy, this one, I don't want to throw too many names out there that everyone's like, yeah, those guys are all long gone in my league. So this guy should be available to just about everybody, and he's not exactly an active stash. He's actually doing about nothing right now. Hasn't played in his last 4 out of 5 games. In one of those games, he played 7 minutes. So the guy is Jared Butler out of Washington.
That's a deep cut. All right, yeah. Talk me into him.
So I throw him out there. Not that I super love it, or that I would not even pick him up right now. 1% owned on roster or on Yahoo, and Josh's Basketball Monster advanced ownership is even lower at 0%. Wow. So this is a guy that you could keep an eye on, that could be available to everybody. I don't know what happens in Washington, and anything could happen. I'm kind of feeling like if anyone's going to get traded, it's probably Kuzma. Poole could be in that mix, but I just feel like they kind of like his leadership out there. this was, I feel like, kind of a redemption season for him last year. He came in and he's like, this is my team. There were timeouts where he's like, this is my team. I'm taking this shot. And I think it was definitely an adjustment period after everything in Golden State, the punch, all that. But I think they like Poole there, his leadership, when they played him, earlier in the season, when it was like Poole, Sarr, Carrington, Keyshawn George. It was Poole and basically a bunch of rookies or second-year guys. I think they keep Poole, but even if they do, if they shut him down or they just change things up, kind of like we saw Carrington after a long stint of starting just recently go back to the bench. He is a high usage guy that I think if something happens, if Kuzma gets traded, if they decide to bring him back and play him more versus Carrington, he was really cooking for like a week stint from January 5th to January 10th. Now, granted, there was no Poole here, but 18 points, 26 points, 14, 17 assists, 4, 7, 5, 5. I don't think he's on a two-way from what I recall, so he should be able to play a decent amount of games. But this is a guy that if something opens up, or say Kuzma and Poole both get traded and all that usage is gone, he is a guy that showed us in just 20 minutes could really cook. And then I think if you scroll down a bit, I think he had another run in there too, from about December 15th to December 3rd. Those look how low those minutes are, 14, 18. He had a 26 in there, 17, 19, 17, but still getting up like a good amount of shots, a good amount of steals, a good amount of assists. So he's not somebody that I would be hoping for a trade to happen, but just somebody to keep an eye on that, again, like I said, is available to basically everybody right now.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love the deep cuts. This is the type of stuff that, like you were talking about, you probably don't need to do it in advance. This is the type of thing where you're watching on trade deadline morning, or you're watching on silly season morning, whenever that is, early March, and you make your move then. Because like you pointed out with Butler, it only took 20 some odd minutes, 22, 23, 24 to get him there. But like you've also pointed out, we're probably a couple of bodies away from it being Jared Butler time. But damn, I mean, those 3 games in particular, January, 4 really, 17-5, 14-5, 26-7, 18-6-4. He did a lot with a little in there on a Washington team that's just like not really an NBA level team right now. So anything could happen. But yeah, probably don't need to pounce on that one. And now talking to Captain Cain, one of my good buddies. Man, you and I go back a long time in the fantasy space.
I think 2018 or so, 2017,
yeah.
2018.
I mean, I was just getting started during that point. You were doing forum moderation, right? Wasn't that part of the deal?
Yeah, I think that's how I first got in. I couldn't get enough. I'd see those questions and I'd get on there and get so deep into it. Like somebody would be like, this guy or this guy. And a lot of the response would be like, this guy or guy B, guy A. And I would get on there and write so much that I would get like TLDRs on me all the time. But yeah, I loved it.
And you were in that moment, I was like, I don't really want to answer every single one of these questions. This captain guy seems awesome. I'm so glad that we get to continue to do things together. All right, who's your favorite? Or before that, I know you're not someone who has like a bunch of things to promo, but is there anything you're working on you want to talk about? Anything you want the folks to know?
No, not really.
You're the easiest guest on planet Earth. You don't even you have nothing to promo.
Yeah, I mean, I would love at some point for this to become like a full-time gig and just watch hoops and analyze all the time. So eventually that'd be the goal. I was a little, if people are following me on Twitter or X, I was a little quiet for about a month there. I went home to see some family for a while. Still keeping up with things, just didn't get to watch as many games, but always up for answering questions. And I guess the next thing is trying to hop on the trade deadline show with you.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I guess we can promo that. So that's coming up on Thursday, February the 6th. We'll start first thing in the morning and we'll be rolling all the way through the deadline. It's my favorite show of the year. It's many, many hours consecutively with no breaks of any kind. I am usually pretty much dead by the end of it, but it's going to be a blast. And you're coming on, Adam King, David Williams, Noah Rubin, Dan McKee, Thunder Dan Palio, Scott Keller, Steve St. Pierre, Alex Rickling, and more. Like at least 5 or 6 more guys are coming on. We just haven't gotten them scheduled for a time yet. I'm so excited because it's the way I've been wanting to do this trade deadline show for a really long time. And so this is kind of like the first chance for me to do it this way in a while. And we're just all going to be going crazy about trades all morning long. You're going to get analysis from Captain here, along with so many others, myself included. And like, I don't know. I think there's something genuinely funny about watching a bunch of goofball fantasy analysts reacting in real time to trades where a lot of people wouldn't even think twice about it. But it was like, oh, this unlocks Kelly Olynyk. And we're all going crazy. And the regular basketball world is like, this trade, this is nothing. Anyway, you got a third. Who's the favorite? I want to know the fave.
Okay. This one, and apologies, this is a double tap on one of your guys, but I was doing numbers and I had this guy already prior to seeing one of your YouTube shorts recently. But Donovan Clingan in Portland.
Yeah. I don't, by the way, I don't think you're going to be alone in this one. And so it's nice that you actually get to be like the first to officially put the plant the flag on the Donovan Clingan thing on the show so that everybody else that follows will be copying you now.
I love it. Man, this guy, where to start here? He is on Yahoo 28% rostered, I believe. But it said that it went up 13% in the last day. Couple things there. One is that Portland and OKC is the only game today. So anyone trying to stream is getting him in. Ayton was out and Rob Williams was out for one of those games. So I'm wondering if his usage, I mean, depending on what he does today, if he blows up, I doubt people drop him, or if that ownership rate drops back down. Not super reflective of what Basketball Monster says for the advanced ownership. I think Josh says that looks at like the top % of like money leagues and stuff, but on there it says he's owned 90% of leagues. So not going to be super available. But there's been so many big centers kicking off lately with Khalil Ware to Nick Richards. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Okongwu. Yep. Yeah. So I was in a position in one of my leagues where I'm just taking best available guy. And now I find myself with like 7 power forward center types. Yeah. And I was in a spot the other night where, man, I can't remember. Somebody got dropped that I needed to. Oh, Gafford. Somebody streamed Gafford.
My gosh, somebody dropped Gafford. This was after the Lively news?
They picked him up for like a 1-day stream, and then I don't think they realized the Lively news, so they dropped him. And I was like, no way, I got to get him. And I didn't have anyone I could drop, so I was on the verge of dropping Nick Richards. Long story short is
good problem to have.
Yeah, so if somebody else was in that position and he got dropped because of all the other centers popping off right now, I get it, 3-headed monster out there. But when he's kind of struggled with injury this year, but when he's on the court, I think he's doing enough as an active stash right now that you can hold him. Let's see, on the season, even in 16 minutes, 5.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, 1.6 blocks. That's great. And that's only in 16 minutes. In the last, let me go to these numbers. So Basketball Monster for the value 30, where they take anyone who's not getting 30 minutes and bump them up to that. I think that's a better way to look at it than per 36, that we used to use more in the past, but outside of New York, not a whole lot of players are getting 36 minutes.
Yeah.
But in value 30, if you were to project him to 30 minutes, he's sitting at 11.7 points, 11.0 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks. Wow. So that's amazing. We all know with Jeremy Grant and Portland in general that they like to sit guys down. Would not be surprised if Ayton became one of those guys, or if he gets traded, being a little older than their core that they have going on. Robert Williams could also get traded. I think, like you mentioned in the show,
like almost I don't want to say a lock to get traded, but Robert Williams, there are some teams out there that could really use his services, which don't come at the. I forget what DeAndre Ayton's contract situation is, but it's more obnoxious than Robert Williams right now. That much I can remember. I know with the Time Lord, I think he's got a pretty reasonable contract. It might even be expiring. Worst case, there's like one more year. Ayton's $35 million this year and next year. That's a tougher contract to move. But again, all you got to do is move one of those guys out of the way because, and you know, this is something you and I have both been kind of beating the drum on. Like, DeAndre Ayton is not going to be playing down the stretch this year. He's not. He didn't play down the stretch last year. He's missed a ton of games in the middle of this season. Portland has no real desire to play him. And you could say, oh, well, it's because they're trying to lose. I don't know that DeAndre Ayton actually makes them better when he's on the court right now. I just don't think they really feel like playing him very much. So there's a lot of ways that Donovan Clingan can get to do more than he has to this point. I don't mean to talk out of turn on this one, but like, he has double-digit rebounds in his last 4 games. Yes, there was a week and a half gap in there due to an injury, but like 24, 27, 22, 18 minutes, that's enough for him as a center. He's not a good foul shooter. He's at 73.5% this year. That's probably going to come down, but he doesn't get to the foul line even when he's playing minutes. So you're going to get the field goal percent, rebound, block combo, which is that kind of traditional center trifecta. It's very easy to build fantasy value when you're good at those 3 things without being a total disaster at other stuff. I don't even care that he's not going to score. And you know I'm on board with this one. But like you said, if you're in a super competitive league, he might be scooped up already. I guess that's the only real negative there.
Yeah. And not to cherry pick a game, you know, you can find highlight reel bias that backs up any player you want to throw out there. You could probably find a Nick Smith highlight reel bias where you're like, oh my gosh, look how great Nick Smith is.
Poor Nick Smith.
sorry, Nick Smith. I'm hoping he does a little more. But the game November 13th, he played.
I knew we were going. I was ready to highlight it.
You were? Yeah, he played the Wolves. I think Ayton and Rob Williams were out, and they won 106-90. I think Simons was out too. But man, he had 17 and 12 with 8 blocks.
Yep.
And to me, that kind of showed like, I don't know if this is a hot take. I think he is more valuable to the team than Ayton. He was doing everything out there, involved in not even just those blocks. I think he had a couple blocks or deflections that they took away. So he could have been up to 10 blocks at that game, but he blocked Rudy Gobert, I think twice, you know, defensive player of the year multiple times. I think he blocked, I was trying to keep track. I'm pretty sure he blocked every starter on their team. So it's not like he was just beating up on a bench warmer. He had energy out there on every play. Like as a rookie, guys were rallying around him, trying to involve him on every play. The leadership, like he took a shot to the junk in one play and he stayed on the court. Just fantastic. Like to me, it was kind of a preview of what we could see if and when they shut down Ayton or trade Ayton. Man, if he is available, and today's probably the least he's available because of that solo game today, but I would try to trade him or trade for him. And I think it's going to be all systems go here pretty soon. And even if it's not, even though 16 minutes a game, he's still doing enough, like, especially if you need some blocks. We always have one of these guys. I feel like at the end of every season.
Yep.
It was
Rudy
Walker
Gobert 2 years ago.
Who was that?
It was Walker Kessler 2 years ago.
Walker Kessler, Rudy Gobert, I think in his first or second season was averaging like 4 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks. And we're like, oh man, what happens if this guy gets minutes? There always seems to be a big center that's getting around 2 blocks in only a handful of minutes. And you're like, man, if we get to March and he gets minutes, he's going to cook.
Yep. I don't disagree. The captain, you're all set. Those are the Cap's big 3. Recap, Isaiah Collier, Jared Butler, and Donovan Clingan were the 3. Jared Butler being the deep league choice, Collier and Clingan. And really, honestly, like 2 of those 3 guys are playable in head-to-head leagues right now. That makes it a lot easier to get them through the deadline, which is not that far away anymore. Now, I should begin, but I'm going to end every one of these episodes with a little bit of a disclaimer. I'll do that at the end here. Actually, after I let you go, because I've already kept you 10 minutes longer than I intended to. Cap, first of all, thank you so much. Second of all, amazing facial hair. Third of all, I'll see you in like a week and a half for the deadline show.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Dan. It's always great getting on here. Thanks for having me, and good luck to everybody in your leagues. And tune in and watch us on the Deadline Show.
And that was the captain, Captain Cain. Captain Canegas, I think is right. Not Canegas. Captain Canegas. CaptCaineghis. If you want to follow him, it's probably easier to just find the link to his social media handle in the show description. I'll make that very easy to find. And before we go, got to shout out our new partners at UnderdogFantasy.com. I am 0 for 2 on my lineup so far, but I am not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not going to do one with you on today's show. We're going to do a couple over the course of each week. I'll try to do maybe 1 or 2 per week, just because if I did one every single day and I continue to not be that great at it, then I won't have any money left. But that's not what you guys want to see. Here's the thing. If I was really good at DFS or props, I would be cleaning up on these things nightly. You guys know me. You guys know that's not my best skill. But if you guys are better than me at picking higher or lower on individual players, it's very easy to put together a pick'em lineup at UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up now using promo code OLDMAN as I cough my way through our Underdog read. I almost did it. I muted my microphone, but not long enough. Or click on the link in the show description. That'll take you to Underdog Fantasy. It's got all our referral information there. That way they'll know who sent you. They're a new partner with the Believe Network, who you guys know we are a part of, and we really want to blow it out so that Underdog wants to partner with us for a super duper long-term deal. Whatever you guys can do is awesome there. Make sure that when you sign up using those codes, I should say make sure when you sign up, you use those codes, because you'll get a 50% deposit match bonus up to $1,000 and a freebie on your first lineup. The freebie is great. I was so close. I had it. I talked through the right choice on the show if you watched it last week, and then I picked the other one because I'm an idiot. But don't be an idiot like me. I was about to turn $10 into 60, but I'm a dum-dum, so I turned $10 into 0. But there's all these angles you can play, especially if you know what's going on across, injuries and illnesses and all that good stuff. The payouts are great. It's super easy to do. They have other games there if you want to get into the draft side. I think the pick'em is more entertaining and easier to do. So check them out today, UnderdogFantasy.com, using code OLDMAN at sign up or using that referral link. Thanks again to Captain Cain, my good buddy. 7 years. He's right. We've been screwing around with fantasy sports together for 7 damn years now, which is amazing because I've only been screwing around on this side, the analyst side of fantasy sports, for like 8.5 years. He's been so sharp since day one, but has never really had the time to create a name for himself. So I'm going to try to do it for him. So make sure to follow the captain over on social media. He'll get you guys all squared away with good information. He's really, really good about getting back to people in a way that I'm not that good at anymore. I am Dan Bespris, not good at getting back to people, at Dan Bespris on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. This is the first in our series of trade deadline stash guest expert shows here on the Old Man Squad Sports Network. Thanks so much for watching. Like, rate if you're on a platform where you can do that, and subscribe. You have to do it at this point. That's a rule. I'll see you guys soon.